Hello, and welcome to our next unit in Teaching Kind Kids. We've just finished up the unkindness, the meanness, the bullying, how to deal with that, and now we're moving on to positive peer relationships, quality friendships, helping our students find good people to spend time with, other kind kids to spend time with. And before we dive into why that is so crucial for our students and why we need to teach it, specifically intentionally teach about positive relationships, just really quickly, I want to make sure that as we're going forward, as we're moving on through this course, we're halfway done with the course. Always know you can go back. You can always rewatch past videos. If you're unsure, you can send me a quick email. You can go back, rewatch videos, use the resources. Remember, only if you are implementing these strategies, using the resources that I am giving to you, will you see the results. And as you're moving forward on this journey through this course, we started with I'm not really sure what to do with SEL or why I'm even bothering or why is this even worth my time. And you're moving on into that connecting with our students and really understanding how to set up that culture and understanding the basics of teaching kindness to our students. And then you're empowered to deal with the mean stuff and the bullying and what to do when your students are bullied or when you suspect a student is being bullied. What are the steps that you are going to take? And hopefully you have a plan in place for your school where you know exactly what to do when you see it, because you will start to see it if you start to look for it, because it's already happening. And now as we're moving forward, we're going to get into that thriving part where we know how to set our students up to have positive peer interactions. And these positive peer relationships are so crucial because when our students know how to interact with each other in a positive way, in a mentally healthy way, they are then better equipped to deal with so many things in life skills, right? So many adults do not have these skills. We can give them to our students at a very young age, but then they're also better citizens of our classroom. They're better members of our community that we have created in our campus or in our classroom, our tiny little group, whatever we have on our school campus. So we want them to be able to stand up for themselves in a positive way and not get trampled on, not get run over, not get, the nice guys finish last things. We don't need that. We want them to stand up in kind ways. We want them to find other kind kids that make them feel good about themselves. And one of the most powerful ways that we can help bully-proof our students is by helping to give them positive peer relationships, finding those quality friendships. Friends help prevent bullying on our campuses. Another way we've been talking about bully-proofing our kids, celebrating our differences, and then the prevention stuff we talked about in the last unit. So this whole section is all about those friendships, those quality, true friendships. So you might be asking, why is teaching about friendship part of my job? Why is this my job description? Why are friends crucial? Why is this so important? Well, for a lot of reasons. We as humans are the sum of the 5 people that we spend the most time with. So think about your own friends as we're talking about this. The 5 people you spend the most time with, and it could be colleagues, it could be friends, it could be your spouse, people you spend time with, they influence you. For better or for worse, they are influencing you. They help drive you to do the things that you're doing. So maybe it's gonna have positive results or negative results. Maybe you're around pessimistic people, you'll tend to be more pessimistic. When we're around more positive people, we tend to be more positive. When we're around adventurous people, we tend to do more adventurous things. When we're around social people, we tend to be more social. When we're around friends who stay out till 4 a.m, we tend to stay out later, even if we can't make it to 4 a.m. If we have friends who are in bed by 8 o'clock with a cozy book, we tend to do that too. Like attracts like, we tend to do what our friends are doing. So our peers can push us towards something in a positive way. They can also push us towards things in a negative way. Friends are also crucial, true friendships, because they give you the tools that you are going to need to deal with tricky situations. So when you have a friend standing next to you, a true friend who sees you for who you are, and you are handed an opportunity that is not a safe choice or is dangerous for our students, right? Maybe for our older kids, we're talking about drugs, we're talking about alcohol, we're talking about drunk driving, we're talking about sex, we're talking the big stuff in life, right? When they have a friend who's right next to them, they can say, this is not what we do. Let's go do something else. It helps with that peer pressure because now you've got somebody who shares your same values, who sees you for who you are, and you can walk away. For our younger kids, those tricky situations are tell her that her food's disgusting, or tell her we're not gonna be friends with her anymore, or you have to write a note to her saying that we don't like her new haircut. This is all stuff that has happened. Those tricky peer relationships, if the students had one friend that said, no, that's not a good idea, right? Then they can walk away together. So friends can pull you out of those tricky situations where our kids are then making unkind decisions because they're surrounded by people who want them to make the decision. And then it's so much harder to swim against the current and walk away from that peer pressure. And again, like I said, friends will bully-proof our students. So when our students are with somebody else, just even physically standing next to somebody, they are no longer alone, which means they're no longer isolated. Physically alone and then emotionally and mentally isolated. Friends will build up their self-confidence. When they feel welcomed and included in a group, their confidence soars. When their confidence soars about that, it soars with everything. It'll soar through for math and for reading. They will just be a more confident version of themselves because it gives them a sense of belonging and makes them feel included and part of a group, part of something where they feel secure. And that is a really powerful and very wonderful feeling, to feel like you're belonging. So we just need to get them into the right social group so they're not belonging in a group that's going to get them to do inappropriate, unkind, mean, dangerous things. And then as our kids are getting older, the influence that their peers have on them is going to increase. And this stresses parents out a lot, and it really stresses educators out as well. You know, when our kids are in pre-K and kindergarten, they spend most of their time, if it's half-day kindergarten, most of their time still with their parents at home, and so that's their influence. And then their friends, they spend a little time, but it's not a huge influence. And as they get older, they're spending more time at school, more time with friends after school and after school activities, more time away from their home environment. And more time away from educators even, because as we get older, secondary teachers, you only have them for what, 40, 50, 60 minutes, maybe tops? And that's the only amount of influence that you have on them. And the rest of the time they're with other teachers or with their peers or with their family. So our then circle of influence is getting smaller and their peers are getting bigger. And that's when they're coming up with these new words, these new phrases, these new dances, these new attitudes, the new activities that they're interested in trying, both positive and not so positive. So when we are focusing on positive peer relationships, it really affects them as a whole person. And since we are teaching the whole child, who they interact with has a direct correlation with how they're interacting with their classmates in our classrooms. It's creating that community space where everyone feels safe and welcome and kind. If they're hanging out with the wrong kind of kids, the kids who are getting them to do unkind things or say unkind things, we need to start to pull them out of that and put them into a group where they are going to then flourish, find the positive role models, the positive peer pressure in life, and be the better versions of themselves, the best version of themselves that they can be. So the relationships that happen out on the yard, we know that all seeps into our classrooms, right? Very few students can leave the drama of the yard, the drama of the hallway, and for our older students, the drama of the cafeteria, or boyfriend-girlfriend drama, or friend drama. That seeps into their everyday lives. That's what they're thinking about because that's what's most important to them. And if that's what they're thinking about and they're struggling with that, they are never going to come into our classrooms ready to learn and absorb and think about multiplication or think about, World War II, whatever we're teaching. We need to get that squared away and give them the tools they need so that when they come in, we then get their full attention and we can give them all of the good stuff that we have to offer them and help them master the skills that will give them what they need. All right, in the next video, we're gonna talk about the difference between friendly and friends, being a true friend and being just friendly, and why it's crucial and why they don't have to be friends with everyone. I'll see you in there.